Kia ora, good evening. Economic activity in Southland fell in the first quarter of 2013, the only region in the country to see a decline. Southland's economic activity dropped 0.2% in the 3 months to March, while 12 other regions saw rises and one was static, according to the ANZ New Zealand Regional Trends Report. The report says subdued sentiment prevails given the potential closure of the Tiwai Point aluminium smelter. The region saw fewer building consents and falling car registrations, although Southland had the lowest unemployment rate for the second successive quarter. For the year to March, growth in Southland rose at 1.1% compared with the previous year. An agreement was signed today between Invercargill and Chinese city Shenzhen, which could lead to growing trade between the cities. A delegation of 5 from Shenzhen were in Invercargill to sign a letter of intent to investigate a friendship city arrangement. Ahead of the signing this afternoon, the delegation took a tour of the city, which included a visit to an Invercargill City Council forestry block and the Southern Institute of Technology. Shenzhen Deputy Mayor Shai Pen says the agreement has many benefits for Shenzhen.
应该说，跟英弗卡基尔市政府之间签订了这样一个意向，有成的意向，应该打开了我们跟新西兰之间友谊的大门，为下一步经济、贸易、教育和其他方面的交流，应该是奠定了一个很好的基础。
Signing this agreement is just like opening a door to New Zealand and to the Invercargill city, and it will provide a good platform for us to make more cooperations in many fields such as education, trade, economy and so on.
Invercargill Deputy Mayor Darren Ludlow says the agreement will mean cultural and sporting links, but it could also be worth millions in trade to the city.
Well, they've got 5.6 million people, so that's a lot of mouths to feed, and that's what they're looking at. And at the same time, they're producing a lot of clothing and electronic equipment that may be of use to us, so it could be literally millions each year.
How long do you think before we see trade benefits from this?
Hopefully by the end of this year. They'll start the formal process as soon as they return and seek approval from the Chinese government. They hope to have that later this year, and once they get that, then an agreement, a formal agreement will be signed, and basically that really opens the doors at that point. But already we've got our business community wanting to meet with the delegation and see specifically what opportunities there are. So really everybody's starting to line up, and that's super encouraging.
A second rendering plant is under construction at Alliance's Lawnville processing plant and is expected to be completed by November, affecting dozens of staff. The new system takes 2 personnel to operate and will replace the role previously filled by staff working at Makarewa's venison plant and the Mataura beef plant. This will affect dozens of staff, but Alliance says they won't lose their jobs and their roles will be redeployed. The new system improves product recovery by reducing waste and increasing yield. It's also proving to be energy efficient, saving 9,000 tonnes of lignite and enough energy to power 170 homes every year. Prescribing physical exercise and nutritional education is proving to be a winner in the South, with demand for green prescriptions rising. Nationally, 250,000 New Zealanders have been issued green prescriptions, and extra funding from Budget 2013 is set to increase that number. Last year, 720 Southlanders used the green prescription, and next year that will rise to 900. People are referred by GPs, practice nurses or themselves, and interviews match clients with the right activity for their lifestyle, ability and commitments. In terms of referrals, Active Lifestyles Coordinator Yvette Hodges says Southland is punching above its weight.
We're able to offer special things for green prescription patients that the rest of the community don't have access to, like loaning them exercise DVDs, exercise equipment, special deals, and even just showing them, for instance, how to make a simple exercise circuit at home.
Nutrition also plays a big role in this. How are you coaching them on that?
Well, we stick to the basics, and healthy eating does go hand in hand with physical activity. So we talk about what people are currently having and try and help them find some areas that they would like to try and improve on.
How successful is it proving in the South?
Well, the latest annual patient survey shows that 64% of green prescription patients in Southland are still more active 6 to 8 months after receiving their green prescription.
What do you think that means in dollar terms as far as saving on health bills?
Well, I have heard quoted some research. Dr. Grant Schofield quoted the research conducted on green prescriptions showing that for every dollar spent on green prescription, 12 health dollars were saved in the long run.
How important do you think the accountability is in this type of system?
I think that when they realise that someone from Sport Southland is going to be calling them up and having a chat about what they've been up to, it really does help motivate them to get out there and give things a go.
Stay with us after the break. Southland will soon mark what was known as Bloody Friday. Welcome back. The number of fatal and serious crashes rose in Southland last year. According to figures from the New Zealand Transport Agency, the number of fatal and serious crashes rose in all 3 southern districts last year. The Southland district had 54 serious or fatal crashes in 2012, up from 46 in 2011. Invercargill had 23 serious or fatal crashes, up from 21, while Gore had 7, up from 6. 35 years ago, Southland farmers released more than 1,300 sheep on Invercargill's main street and later slaughtered them at a section on Victoria Avenue. The farmers' protest action was born of frustration at the number of sheep starving to death due to industrial chaos in the meat industry sector, with 116 stoppages at the region's 4 meatworks in the first 5 months of 1978. Sarah Bedford spoke to one of the protest leaders, Sid Slee, about the farmers' action on June 9th, 1978, on what is referred to as Bloody Friday.
We weren't really wanting to shock people, but we wanted them to basically see what was going on the farm, to realise, hey, how desperate we're getting. We couldn't see any other way of sort of really, it had to be dramatic protest. And as a farmer said to me, I just talked to him recently about it, and he said the protest was born out of sheer farmer frustration.
Why was the situation just so desperate back then?
Well, it was basically just because we couldn't, the stock of the 126 days the works could have worked, that's the meat companies, there's 4 major companies here then, and of the 126 working days that could have worked, there are only 9 days when the 4 plants were working together. There was nearly somebody on strike every working day because virtually their work stopped. And so they just couldn't get the normal flow of stock, couldn't get killed. So they just left at home, and you'd send them as a farmer, we'd send them down to the works, and within a couple of days quite often they'd come back. There'd be a strike and they wouldn't kill out the stock in transit or in that they had on the plant, and they'd come back to the farm dehydrated and thin looking, and this is quite frustrating to a farmer who tries to present them well. Yes. So they're pretty anxious times for farming.
How long had the situation been like that?
It hadn't been a very good situation for at least 5 years. And that was another thing. It had been year after year after year. And it just got to a stage where it was just explosion. And even to organise the protest in 3 days, to get all that support, shows you that it takes a lot to make farmers do things, to get together. And basically, it just showed you the anxiety and the frustration out there.
Economically, how bad were farmers hurting at the time?
It would have been, they weren't terribly good farming years, and there'd been a drought, and I'd say it was hurting, but it was more the frustrations of just seeing the stock not doing well. And yes, there was an economical frustration there too, because we weren't getting the money for them, but it was more the condition of the stock that farmers didn't like to see the situation they're in. And it drags on till next year too, because if you've got shorter feed in the autumn, which it was June, it doesn't augur well for the next year.
Did you get the response you wanted from having the protest?
Yes, no, we were very proud of how it all went, and we got a good farmer response, and we felt for the start the general first headlines in the paper after were sort of saying, oh well, we know the farmers are frustrated in that, but they didn't have to bring sheep to town. But then within a few days the public opinion swung right behind us. People said, well, it had to, what the farmers did was right. And basically, yes, no, we felt very happy with the situation. And it certainly brought things to a head.
And to mark the 35th anniversary, a reunion is being held at the Invercargill Workingmen's Club on the 8th of June. A cathartic exhibition on display at Invercargill's City Gallery is providing a way for national artists to share their personal experience with terminal illness. A brief invited artists to create a work that reflects a journey before, during and after terminal illness as part of the second Living Every Moment exhibition. 67 works by artists from Auckland South are on display, and it's hoped the exhibition could become an annual event. Hospice Southland is largely reliant on community support, with around half of the cost of providing services raised from the local community. Chief Executive Max Reid says the exhibition is a means of saying thank you.
The hospice is seen as part of the community, and we wanted to acknowledge that that's very much a reciprocal relationship.
What do you think the creation of this art has meant for the artists involved?
I think for many people, art, be it painting or poetry writing, is a way of putting into words in a different way, putting expression around some of the difficult stages of life, some of the things that are hard to find meaning in, being able to express that meaning in a different way.
So the artists that have been invited to exhibit here, they've given a bit of a detailed description around what their paintings mean?
Yes, a number of them have. A number of them have reflected on perhaps their own journey of living with a life-limiting illness. Janet DeWatt, one of the artists who's exhibited, discovered that she had cancer a few years ago while she was doing a residency at James Hargis College, and she used that residency and that time to actually paint her way through her experience of cancer. And so her work, as much of the other work, is really quite profound in terms of that expression.
And that's it from the news team. Coming up in sport, the Steel continue their winning streak. From us, good night.